Hi everyone! We're talking about Cold War. This week we combined week 19 and 21. So we're gonna talk about Cold War and let's do hand motion. Week 19. Tell me about NATO. In 1949, the United States and its allies formed NATO, began to resist the spread of Soviet communism. And let's do week 21 hand motion. Tell me about US astronaut. In 1969, US astronaut Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin were first man to walk on the moon. So you cannot really see my leg now, but pretend like you're walking on the moon, like no gravity. Okay, so let's continue our history, talking about Cold War. So what is about Cold War? What is about Cold War?
Is about like America competing against Russia.
Yeah.
Like
So there's some conflict between United States and the Soviet Union. So after World War II, there were some disagreement between these two countries, and the struggling between these two nations began soon after the war. Since the time of World War II, the communists had taken control of the government of Soviet Union. These leaders promoted the spread of communism to other countries. And after the World War II, what was treatment? What is a treaty for after war? After World War One, the Versailles Treaty was the Germany have to pay for after the post-war, right? And France, what do they ask? Limit Germany military power, right? Mm-hmm. And the US set some special organization called League of Nations, but it was pretty weak because US wasn't part of it, right? And another thing is there's no military force. So if other nations do something wrong, the League of Nations cannot do anything. Just talking, like very soft talk, but there's nothing really like forcing them to stop. So it was pretty fail. So World War II started. So after World War II, these leaders make sure Germany will never start war again. How do they do that? They divided, if let's say this is Germany, they divided for 4 parts. So this is France, this is England, this is the US. They are all together. And one part here was Soviet Union. They are divided and the conflict started. The United States feared the Soviet Union goal was world domination under communism. The Soviet Union, they want to spread out the communism to all the way to all the world. And the Soviet Union opposed the UN. What was the UN?
United Nations.
Yeah, what is about? So the League of Nations was pretty weak. So after World War II, they have to make sure we need to have real parents to discipline our children. It's like a parent. So they have to really guard with sometimes like military force, have to make sure we have a peace. So before 2 or 3 these nations are having conflict, they have to have somebody to talk. So that was a United Nations. And Soviet Union, they didn't like how the UN keeping their peace. And this conflict was called Cold War. The weapons of the war was not really like the guns and using any missile. It was more mainly the economics and politics. And the Cold War caused each nation to stay armed just in case it became actual war. So it wasn't really hot, Later, it became hot somewhere else, not in US and Soviet Union, but it was just Cold War, and they're competing for different things. So Soviet Union promised to hold free election in Eastern European countries when World War II ended. That's what the Stalin promised at the Yalta Agreement. It was part of the Yalta Agreement. But did he keep the promise?
No.
The Joseph Stalin didn't plan to keep his promise. Stalin wanted the government in Eastern Europe and Germany to be communist. That was his goal. The United States was concerned about the spread of communism in Europe. So the communism was like, do you know communism? Do you understand what is communism? It's a threat to democratic government. So they cannot choose their own leaders. They also control for their economy, like individualism and freedom. The person's right is not important. It was more like disciplining, obedient, and the commonwealth. That's more important. It's like totalization. Total is more important than individual. So very similar idea. And the most small countries in Europe, they couldn't be able to defend themselves against this communism without help of the United States. The powerful big brother United States really need help for saving these small European countries. So the Winston Churchill, he said a very interesting thing. The Iron Curtain has descended across the continent. He said, so because the Soviet Union is putting the iron curtain, it's not just like easy to go. No, they really block the way and spread out the communism against democracy. And something happened at the time that Turkey and Greece had a serious political and economic problem after World War II. The Soviet Union wanted a part of Turkey's territory. Do you know where's Turkey? What was the before Turkey? Long time ago, ancient history, we learned about that. It was the very famous city that always before have to go through to trade to going to east. To Asia. Byzantium, that's a part of, Istanbul, that's a Turkey. It's a very, geographically, is very important city because it's a part of the ocean and you can easily using their port to trade, go. It was kind of the center of universe long time ago. People believed that. Very good location. And Soviet Union really wanted to have that geographically, politically really good land. So they wanted to have the part of the Turkey's territory. And also something happened in Greece. The civil war broke out in Greece. The communist force tried to gain the power in each country. In 1947, the President Truman, he realized this is like threat. This is something very dangerous. The Soviet Union is trying to spread out their communism. So the President Truman asked Congress to help. Let's help these small countries. And also the Turkey and Greece, we need to help them to prevent the spread of communism. So Greece and Turkey were able to defeat those countries that wanted to overthrow their government. They kept it. And President Truman, he also said like we need to help these small European countries to restore, so their economy will be recover quickly, and so they don't have to depend on the communism. So Secretary of State George Marshall knew that the U.S. had to help Europe after the war, and European cities had to be rebuilt. And the weak economies had to be made stronger. So they call it Marshall Plan. Marshall hoped to help European avoid communist takeover. So Congress, they agreed to fund. So it's kind of the European like recovery program So because of this US helping European countries with Marshall Plan, west side, so Western Europe recover very quickly. So I kind of like tell my kids, if you go to Marshall store, you can get all the things, supplies you need, everything you need, including sometimes the food. So it's kind of like my kids can remember the name Marshall Plan. You go to Marshall and you can get help. That's how America helping the European countries with Marshall Plan. That is the European Recovery Program. Is it any question?
No.
Okay. When World War II ended, Germany was divided among these four allies. What was four allies? US and the Soviet Union and Germany. Oh,
No.
sorry.
England and France.
England and France. I say, what was the four allies? US, the Soviet Union, and Great Britain and France. And France, these three, except the Soviet Union, these three, France and Great Britain and US, they agree. Let's combine these sections of West Germany into one nation. Instead of we divide these three and trying to control ourselves, each country, let's make it one nation, West Germany. And let's call it Federal Republic of Germany. And the Soviet Union was upset about it. And to show their anger, the Soviet set up blockade in 1948. And this means they cut off the road and the traffic into Berlin. So let's say this is, so they divided four sections, and France and England, America, they combine all this and become one. So let's color it blue. And this part of the east part of Germany belonged to Soviet Union. But the capital city, what is name?
Berlin.
Berlin was on kind of the middle of east side, eastern Germany. So if this is Berlin, how do they communicate? They put the highway here from the West Germany, and to go to the West Berlin to supplies and communicate easily. But then because Stalin was upset and to show, and also they from this just Berlin, because they have a kind of like guarded, they divided the land. So from east to west, people can see, oh wow, we don't have any colorful clothing. Oh, we are so poor. We are still waiting for get the food and bread and milk. But I just pick from the tall building. I can see the people in west side. They're very rich, and they have freedom. They don't have anything they have to worry about to survive the day. So people start escaping it. So the Stalin was so upset. And he blocked all this, every ground transportation, he blocked it. So the west side of Berlin people, they couldn't get any supplies. Isn't it interesting? Mm-hmm. So the Berlin was not able to get the supplies from the Western Europe. And 3 days later, after the blockade was set up, US President Truman, he ordered airlift. Do you know what is airlift? It's kind of using airplane and deliver the food and supplies for the people in West Berlin. And it lasted a little more than a year. And planes carried tons of supplies to Berlin. And finally, the Soviet Union gave in. And West Berlin remained a free and democratic city. Interesting, right? And later, Soviet Union, they put the wall there. That's called Berlin Wall. Yeah. So let's talk about it. So US is the leader was Truman, President Truman, and Soviet Union, the leader was Stalin. They're not willing to compromise their ideas each other. They have a very different idea. Actually, the Russia and US was enemy during the World War II, right? Until Germany betrayed their friendship to Russia and Germany attacked. Germany couldn't fight anymore because against Great Britain because they're pretty strong and they just okay we have to stop the west side and then let's go to find bigger room to grow. So Germany broke their friendship with Russia, and Germany attacked Russia, and later Russia allies with France and Great Britain and U.S. So after World War II, during the World War II, almost the end of the World War II, Soviet Union they become friends. But as soon as they have a no more war with Germany, they're like starting conflict to each other. So the U.S., West Germany, they divided, right? And the East Germany plus Eastern Europe, small European countries, they become the Soviet Union. And then the U.S. spread the democracy to the west side of European countries. What is the democracy means? You choose your own leader, you vote, right? Your parents go voting to, I want to choose this person to lead our nation or our state. We have a right to vote, right? So we elect whoever I want to choose for representatives to make decision for our nations. And we have a freedom and we have a prosperity. And it's capitalism's economy. I can do whatever I can sell, I can make to make money. And when I make money, that's mine. But how about communism? They have a common economy. Whatever you do have, you share. And people start like, why I have to work so hard? Doesn't matter if I make $100 or $1,000, I have to share. I never have a freedom to own. I cannot save my own banking account. And they're focused on the obedience and discipline. So totalism. And Stalin set the Berlin blockade and cut off the transportation. And U.S. and France and Great Britain flew supplies to West Berlin. I'm sorry, this keeps saying West Virginia. Okay, NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization. What is it? America set some kind of organization. Hey, in North European countries, join us. Whoever in North Atlantic countries, we're gonna have some kind of promise treaty organization. An attack on one member would be considered an attack for all. If you attack because this is a very small European country, you attack. If Soviet Union attack, that means you're attacking for all. So it's kind of like protecting for their democracy countries. And President Truman, he said we have to have some kind of doctrine to protect them. And the plan for helping them, their recovery plan is called Marshall Plan. And also Soviet Union, against the NATO, they set up some kind of treaty. It's called Warsaw Pact. It's defense treaty. Soviet Union and East Germany and Poland and Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, and Bulgaria. Any country, if they get attacked from the west side, they will be protecting each other. But in my opinion, it was just to show, because the west side, they have some kind of organization. Okay, we also need some kind of things to promise. So these small countries to obey to Soviet Union. That was the idea. And let's talk about it. What's going on with space race? So let's go over our timeline. 1945, World War II, and U.S. during the World War II, U.S. only had nuclear power, right? What was nuclear power? What did U.S. have to use nuclear power for?
Bombing Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, to stop Japan, right? And 1949, Soviet Union also, like 4 years later, Soviet Union developed nuclear power. So how does the U.S. feel like?
Insecure.
Wow, they also developed nuclear power. U.S. is not only superpower. In 1953, both countries developed hydrogen bomb. What is a hydrogen bomb is more than 100 times powerful than atomic bomb. That's very scary. Either country use any of the country use that the hydrogen bomb. That's it. I don't know who can survive. And space race begin. It's a larger, becoming the Cold War competition is becoming bigger and bigger. So 1957, the first satellite into space. Who sent it? Who sent the first satellite into space? Russia. Soviet Union. What for? What can you do with the satellite?
Spying on other countries.
Yeah, you can hear, you can listen their radio station. Now you can see the map. You can target exactly where I'm going to drop the nuclear bomb. You use a satellite, you can see that. It's just, you can spy all the information and other military purpose, they developed that. In 1957, they first time sending dog to the space. How's that? Right? And they have a successful mission. A dog didn't come back, but their mission completed to sending some kind of live animal to the space. And after that, Russian first human being went to the orbit and make one circle of the Earth. It's pretty amazing technology, right? In 1961, there was the first time circling the Earth one time, and John F. Kennedy, 1961, John F. Kennedy, he announced the goal of landing American on the moon before the end of decade. Only a few years left. Suddenly, John F. Kennedy, he announced, we're going to the moon first. Whoever going to the moon first will be the winner. Competition becomes hotter and hotter. So the first person, Soviet Union, they sent a first person walk in space, first time in 1965. Wow. In 1969, something happened here in 1969. We did our hand motion, right? The American astronaut. What's his name? There's two people. Neil Armstrong, the first person to walk on the moon. We have an even timeline, right? The Apollo 11 mission successfully, the American astronaut went to the moon and planted American flag on the moon and say this: we came in peace for all mankind. We came in peace for all mankind. We came in peace only for our West European West side. No, we came here for all the mankind, including even the people in Soviet Union. We want to have peace. We came in peace for all mankind. Just 3 days before American astronaut went to the space, actually Russia, the Soviet Union, their technology was almost very ahead of the US. So they have a huge accident. They sent a Soviet Union, the astronaut to the space, and the person was coming back to the Earth and had a pretty bad accident. But they almost went there first. But I think it's really God is in control. God is in control. God is in hand for every situation. So even this came in peace for all mankind. Right? So God was with us. I thought that's pretty amazing. If you guys have any chance to go to Flight Museum, go check it out and see. We live in Washington State, and if you go to Seattle area, they have a Flight Museum. It's pretty amazing to see to see what kind of airplanes and spaceships they use for competing for their space race. Okay, let's continue. So during the Cold War, Soviet Union, many people they escaped and got to the Western Europe or US. It was pretty hard for them to go escape. Some people got killed right away. Some people have to swim. Some have to go really high. Just crazy. Some people survived. A lot of people died. Some people also go to jail. And people having difficulty to buy things they needed. Imagine, Soviet Union, they're using all the money to what? To what? To build nuclear power. And what?
Control the world.
They're using the money to sending the satellite into space and sending the dog and sending the people to the space. They're spending so much money, right? But how about the regular people? They're so hungry, they're dying without food. Average Soviet Union citizens spent 1/3 of their life waiting in line at the shop to get the food, get the bread. And the shoppers sometimes do not know what kind of things left over they will get after a long waiting. And in 1985, those people had been waiting for something more important than getting shoes, TV, or like a toaster. They've been waiting for freedom, democracy, free speech, and the right to travel, and even worship God the way they want to worship God. They've been waiting for a long time. In 1980s, Ronald Reagan, and Soviet Union has a new leader. I like this leader. What's his name? What is his name?
Stalin?
No, after Stalin, there's a new leader, Gorbachev.
Oh.
Yeah, these two leaders, President Reagan and Gorbachev, they're together doing something beautiful. They're melting the Cold War. The Cold War become a little bit warmer to compromise and working together. So let's talk about how the Soviet Union collapsed. The common economy couldn't create any wealth and raise living standard as quickly as market economy. Market economy is a democracy, the freedom, whatever they can work hard, they can earn. So there's competition that makes better life, better money. So the common economy where the Soviet Union wanted to have, like the communism persuaded, they couldn't do it. They couldn't keep up. So the Soviet Union couldn't afford the expenses of to maintain the balance of terror too. So much money they're spending for nuclear and the space race. So cannot do anymore. And the East European countries, they resist communism and Soviet control. They don't want to be under the communism control anymore. So they want to be independent from that. So in Russia, they have to have some reform. It's called the freedom of expression and market reform. So President Reagan speech in West Berlin said, open the gate if you guys have if you wanna see his speech, President Reagan's speech, Google it and you will see his speech. It's pretty amazing. That was 1987. In 1989, East Germans forced their government to open the Berlin Wall, and it falls and signaling to the end of the Cold War. So the Russia, the Soviet Union, they have to have open. They are kind of forced because they cannot do anymore with economy. So they should have like market reform, the economy reform, and this freedom of expression. People people didn't have any freedom to say, we don't like it, we don't want to be under control of the communism. But now they have a freedom to speak. So the reform happened in Russia and in Soviet Union. It's called glasnost. That means it's openness that leads to drive for independence by the ethnic minorities and break up with the Soviet Union. And Soviet Union was divided into 15 independent nations. And no more Warsaw Pact dissolved. And by 1990, the Cold War between the two countries, who was two countries having Cold War? US and Soviet Union was over. Cold War was over, and they no longer were competing in space anymore because they have so much competition, right? And 1996, something beautiful thing happened. The US astronaut and Soviet Union, the Russia astronaut, they worked together in space. It's a very interesting story, right? It's really not so long ago. And let's go through the key events of the Cold War. Okay, 1945, World War II ended. In 1949, Germany divided. And also, the same year, Mao Zedong led communists to victory in China. China became communism, and Mao Zedong was the leader. In 1950 and 1953, for these years, Korean War happened. So actually, the Cold War become hot in some other place in Korea and Vietnam. We cover this Korean War and Vietnam War in cycle 2. So today we're not going to talk about it. We'll talk about it in cycle 2 again later. But the Cold War become hot, not in Russia, Soviet Union, or in America, but the Cold War became very hot in Vietnam and China and Korea. So 1959, there was a communist revolution in Cuba. In 1961, Berlin Wall built. Remember? They have to really build so people cannot escape. So 1964, US entered the Vietnam War. 1975, Vietnam War ends with North Vietnamese victory. 1976, Mao Zedong died. 1985, leader Gorbachev. He became new leader. Have a reform. 1989, Eastern European overthrow communist rule, and Gorbachev, he didn't do anything. They just let them independent. In 1991, the Soviet Union breaks up and the Cold War ends. And let's talk about America, because we are studying about American history, US history. So let's talk about in America. America sent so many military soldiers to Vietnam War and spent so much money for spaceships and the nuclear developing and the weapons. So much money spent. How about what happened to American economy? It's doing well? The government doesn't have much money. Their economy not doing well. So President Reagan called for a new beginning. The country's biggest problem was inflation. So President Reagan, he wanted to lower taxes and decrease the power of the federal government. He think the government is too big and he have to be small so people will have more freedom. So President Reagan thought many federal programs made people too weak, too depends on government. Does it sound something similar that happened before? President Hoover, when the Great Depression happened in America, he said pretty similar things. Good government should not help. It's not exactly the same what the President Reagan is doing as President Hoover, but whenever there is some problems and economy is getting harder, there's government is doing different thing. Sometimes the president say we need to really help our people, and some other people say we should not. Still, the government should not really help. This is the other like charity or volunteers work to do. But anyway, the President Reagan, he said he believed the people should take responsibilities for their own lives and the community problems should be solved by volunteer groups. And second thing is he limited government power. We need to be small government. If too much government could threaten individual freedom. Like what? Communism. 3. Increased nation's defense spending to strengthen the U.S. military, referred as Star Wars. So we have to have like strong defense systems to protect against nuclear threats by Soviet Union. And number 4, we have to minimal government debt. So much money U.S. The government was spending at the time, so we need to reduce the government spending. And number 5 was lower tax, cut the taxes to get economy moving. So if people got to keep more of their wages, their money, making more money, they work harder and they can save more. So new business means more jobs. So more people will pay taxes eventually on the bigger income. So if you are making more money, you pay like higher tax, and you open the business, and more people will have job. So there will be the economy will kind of circulate quickly. That was his idea during this Cold War. So we just talk about Cold War today. It was pretty interesting, right? And why do we learn history? So
to learn from our mistakes and to make better choices, learning from what other people did.
Right. So we study what happened in the past, and we don't have to copy exactly the same mistake as before, or even making worse choice. We make better choice from other people's mistake. Is it okay to make mistake?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is our motto at our homeschool? A mistake is an opportunity to learn. We are learning from other people's mistake, and so we don't have to make big mistake. But it's still okay to make mistake, right? So that's why we are learning history. I hope you guys really understand and enjoy learning about Cold War. I will see you next week. Bye.